that's a recognizable enough thing that I feel like people get without being afraid of getting like a strike.
Javi, back in the day, these podcasts used to begin with some theme music.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we do have a theme, didn't we?
We had a couple
We
themes.
did. We got to bring those back. I can't remember where I put those files.
Up your butt and around the corner.
Welcome everybody to the Cine-Scoot movie show.
I am looking at our notes right now, everybody, and seeing the top billed star in this film. Oh, I see. You have a different. Well, maybe it is a different format. Anyway, the way the Word doc is set up,
It's weird.
it's weird.
Yeah,
but-
and that's not even. It's not even the fact that I made this outline on my phone at like 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's the fact that if you go to IMDb and you go to the cast list,
This is the first.
the
thing
actual like main cast is not
is not on top.
on the thing.
Yeah.
They are like buried. You have to click on like see full cast, and then it has all of these like secondary characters, and then at the bottom it's like in alphabetical order, and then it gives you Drew Barrymore, like
That's so
Naomi
funny.
Scott,
That's so funny.
Kyle Gallner.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why not start? It's such a weird choice.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're talking about Smile too. By the way, I'm Javier. I'm not Thano. He's Thano.
I thought he is Javier.
I am. Please remember to share this. I am very excited to talk about a new.
We are so excited, millions of fans, that this review is right now. It's 8:09 a.m. in the great land of Lincoln.
we got a chance to get together and watch a movie on release night,
Yeah.
and then like within 48 hours,
We're
be
able
able to get together and discuss it.
I feel like this one needed immediate takes.
Fresh.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your initial thoughts on Smile?
Well, so first of all, you mean the franchise or this movie?
The movie.
All right. So first of all, let me say I think this is our first like sequel episode we're able to record. That's not part of a big franchise like the MCU.
I'll have to go back.
I would have to formally double back and check, but it's the first thing I remember. Smile 2 is the most enjoyable bummer I've seen in a long time.
We have seen some bummers for sure.
Yes, and there's some good bummers, but I would say like this is big bummer,
Yeah.
but also like effective bummer. And I've just been thinking about this movie almost nonstop.
Really?
Since we saw it. I've been thinking about it a lot, which is funny because it's a franchise that punches well above its weight class.
Weight class.
On paper, this should be very forgettable.
I mean, if you think about it, whenever even the first movie back in 2022, I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, "There's no way this is more than like
A January movie.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure, it happens to be in September,
Right.
but it like the premise is very truth or dare. I don't know if you remember that movie.
We talked about Truth or Dare in our first episode. Truth or
And-
Dare, The Ring, and It Follows.
Yeah. And it kind of gives that vibe, like, hey, here's this demon that makes people around you smile, and it just like follows you around, right? So there you
Yes.
go.
There's your premise.
There's your premise. There is your Ring connection with it being usually around the week. There's your It Follows connection with this thing just goes around,
From
you
person to
can't
person?
escape it.
Yep.
Your schlocky like bullshit, right?
Yes.
So it did not.
It should be a C at best.
It should be,
Yeah.
but the wonderful thing is that it's not.
And a lot of that is due to style. I will say.
Yeah.
I think the style is really what elevates.
So speaking of the style, it's kind of fascinating looking back. I didn't rewatch the first movie, but I watched like a lot of like the clips and stuff from it.
And I really forgot a lot of the first movie, to be honest with you.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it stuck with me enough that I still remember
Major-ish plot points.
major plot points.
I remembered who the character in the prologue was, but I had forgotten like the main character's name, like what she did for a living.
Isn't it Rose?
Yeah,
it's Rose.
maybe. Like
Yeah.
I'd forgotten a lot of like what the main plot was, which I think was fine. But I think this movie takes a much more interesting take on this concept in a new plot. But anyway, continue. Yeah.
I was saying, as far as like the style goes, this movie, if you were just to be like, all right, pick one thing that is just like head and shoulders above the first. I don't think I could say the performances, because even in the first movie, even though I do think this movie is superior in its performance,
Yeah, the performances were good.
like Naomi Scott is really, really good,
Right.
and like everybody else in this movie is also really good. I fucking love Gemma.
Yeah,
She's a gem.
Gemma is a gem. Protect Gemma.
Protect Gemma. In this house, we are Team Gemma.
Yes.
The cinematography and the way this movie looks.
Oh, yeah.
It is a sharp, smooth movie, which feels like antithetical.
You know what's really funny? In our
Mm.
first episode, early on, you had talked about how the first movie is really not that gory.
Oh yeah.
And then we had walked out of this one, and you were like,
Holy shit, this movie.
I think you said it was like the second most violent thing you'd seen all year.
Yeah.
And Javi's seen Terrifier 3.
Hell yeah, I did.
So the added budget, I would have to. You got the budget notes in here? Yeah, you do. Okay, not that big. I'm gonna have
The
to
first
go.
one was 18 million, so it's about 10 million more.
Okay, but that's not. I mean, that's a lot, but that's also. Well, anyway, they use that. They use that 10 million well.
They use that 10 million very well.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing just how effective the use of violence is on this movie.
Yeah.
When the violence hits,
It does hit.
it does kind of make you go, oh, what is happening?
Yeah.
Just from the first scene alone, I think it really gets you started with some kind of like gritty violence.
Gritty violence. Are we talking plot points?
In a second.
Okay.
I think as far as like a sequel to a movie that should not have been as good, like we said, a movie that had no business being as good as it was. I think the escalation in just about every aspect, from like the story, the characters, like the performance of the characters, the scares. I think this movie is just better.
The feels.
This movie is very emotional. I think it tackles the emotion better than the first.
Because both movies find themselves in like a sense of hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like not only did this movie feel more like torture-y throughout, which honestly I do, is one of my biggest strengths of the movie, but then also one of my biggest weaknesses of the movie. But like, because the first one ends where it ends, and this one kind of does the same thing but bigger in scale, I was like, damn
Indeed.
It got me again.
No, not again.
It got me again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. One thing that I find interesting is in seeing different reviews from different people that I trust in film criticism. It's kind of interesting to me how some people will find Sky Riley more relatable. And some people go, no, the pop star angle is not relatable to me, so I am not as interested in the story from her point of view.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can understand that, but I think having seen basically this on screen in real life with how people treat
certain celebrities,
I'm like, no, I can totally see the relatability.
I was thinking about that exactly in the shower yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
You were thinking about Naomi Scott in the shower?
I was thinking about Naomi Scott. They're not in that way. I was just thinking about ancient Greek tragedy, right? And then a critique that people actually have of it is that all the tragic figures are kings and shit. So how can that make them more relatable? But then I was like, well, in this case, it is, because that famous figure, even though they live a very different life, even though they have cool tiger prints on their walk-in closet, right?
Yeah.
They have like a relationship with more people.
Yeah, their influence is widely spread.
Right. Like, yes, I can relate to the average Joe, but like, I know Britney Spears, not intimately, but like, I know her. I have like some sort of like quasi para relationship.
You know
with
her story.
Yes. And so do other millions of people. So by the time we get to the film's ending, and you see like, you know,
the downfall,
and
everything,
I do think that makes it really hit home, because like, you have a stadium full of people who like are kind of privy to this person's life, even though they're not friends or acquaintances or anything. Yeah. And I do think that there is an emotional weight there.
Yeah.
That, you know, that shows why sometimes it's effective to view tragedy through the eyes of celebrity or high figure.
Yeah, for
But,
sure.
yeah.
All right, that seems pretty good as far as like our initial thoughts. I really enjoy this. This is high on my list for my year. I think the scares alone, I think for me really do it here.
So I got logged out of my letterbox again, so I didn't log back in. But I actually, it's high on my list, but my rating is interesting. It's in the threes.
We've
It's in
talked
the
about
threes.
this.
Yeah, we talked about this in
We've
that
talked about
episode.
this.
Yeah, a 3-star movie can have a 3-star movie can have a
So
wide
much
range.
enjoyment that yeah.
Yes, but I think the reason it falls is actually purely down to taste for me, not so much effectiveness. I think whatever it set out to do, I think it did very well.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Actually, we were talking about AI.
Yeah.
I used ChatGPT to help me condense the plot a little bit.
Very nice.
So my bullet points have been sponsored by ChatGPT.
Thank you. We should get, as someone who's a fan of the robots, we should get them to officially sponsor us.
Never. But yeah, so this movie, I know we briefly touched on it in the first Smile conversation. I didn't go back and listen to the episode, but I do remember the end of the movie. You're just kind of left with like, well, now the guy who has this problem is a cop, and hey, guess what? Cops can basically get off killing anyone without a problem.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of addresses that
Yeah.
at the very beginning, but it also kind of, like I said on the drive home, mad props to this guy for lasting 6 days without being like, you know what, I'm gonna do some police brutality.
Right.
Because I think he's on day 6.
I believe so. The
Title card says
6 days
later.
later. Yeah, which is
Something.
impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive that he made it that far.
He made it that far. He has a concise plan.
Does
I'm not saying good plan.
Does the first movie, I believe the first movie more hits home the trauma rules of this demon.
The guy in prison says, in order for this thing to leave you,
Yeah.
you need to kill someone. You basically need to traumatize someone so much that this thing latches onto them seeing a different death.
But I believe in the first one, there's more of an emphasis on this thing seeks out people with trauma.
Oh, I see.
Whereas in this one, that does still happen, but in the time where we get our rules explained, I don't believe this guy in this movie explains it as much. So I'm wondering if friend from the first movie, policeman friend, hello, Mr. Policeman.
Oh, Kyle Gallner?
Yes,
Joel.
I wonder if he lasted so long because like his life was not as traumatic.
I don't think it's ever specified that this thing seeks out people with trauma, because I think it's just when it gets you,
Yeah.
the entity doesn't seem to know what other people know. It knows what you know.
It knows what you know. Yeah.
So I think it just kind of then, when it gets onto you, then it finds the most traumatic thing that you have.
Maybe it
and
can fester.
amplifies
Maybe it can fester more. It's like mold. Maybe it really.
Yeah.
I mean, the darker and damper the place.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, we have both main characters in these movies. We have Rose in the first one, whose
Yep.
big trauma was
Her mama was a
OD'd.
bad lady.
Yeah, mom OD'd in front of her,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much of this is like actually what happened and how much is this demon influencing. But she's like, "Don't let me die," and she's like 10.
No, I was the. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was
and
team, and I am still team on the girl made the conscientious decision to like let mom. She
I mean,
realized something was wrong.
Dude, she's 10.
Yeah. She was a smart cookie. She realized something was wrong, and she was like, "I'm gonna leave mom. I'm gonna leave mom here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this movie, Sky is first of all, a recovering junkie.
Yeah.
And she went through a terrible accident.
Yeah.
So like at first I thought both the accident and what happens with Joel were related.
I was.
And I don't
too.
know how much that is intended to be like a misdirect,
Yes.
but it's a little,
They're not other than the fact that like
they're car accidents.
yes.
Because Joel unsuccessfully tries to pass on.
Pass on.
No, I think he does pass it on. He passes it on to the guy
Yeah.
who is buying drugs from the
Correct.
drug dealers, because he fucks up.
Yeah.
He kills the drug dealers.
Yeah.
He wanted to pass it on to them because he's like, hey, they're bad people. They deserve to die anyway.
Right. So
No harm, no foul.
we'll just
And
stick it here. Not the. I mean, honestly, a smarter strategy than the other one that we see like later on, which could be real or not real.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a guaranteed almost, because like we know for a fact that that worked with Mr. Dude in prison in the first movie.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, there's some trails there that we can follow.
You know, I think we need to change the phrase to a cab eat a cab edge. All cops are whatever you want to use, except Joel.
Joel's a good cop.
Joel's a good.
Hey man, listen,
Yeah,
Joel's a good cop.
Javi likes Joel.
I like Joel.
Yeah.
I mainly like the actor.
Yeah.
Kyle Gallner. Anything that I've seen him in. I just saw him in the movie called Strange Darling this week.
Yeah.
Dude, that movie's so good. It just like twists on twists on twists.
Twist on.
Anyway, I feel bad that he gets got. I think he was fucked anyway. No matter what, he was not getting away scot-free on this. Like, that was such a botched disaster. Like he kills a dude, then he gets caught by like other drug dealers.
Yeah.
He shoots like 3 people. He got shot. So like his DNA is in the scene. He's a cop. They have his DNA.
Yeah.
So like he was.
It went wrong. It went wrong in many ways.
Yeah.
But that's kind of that's one of the themes of the film. Is you're so fucked.
Yeah. Shit's just kind of not going for you here.
And say what you will about any sort of twists and turns, like these characters in this film, they do really give it their all.
They do.
We're gonna get to our protagonist in a moment, but like, there is never a point where I'm like, this girl is not trying hard enough. Like, yeah,
dude. His death. This whole scene is shot as a oneer, and it's really well done.
And there's never a point in here where he's not trying hard enough.
Yeah. And his death, even though it happened so fast and so sudden,
right?
Like, yeah, the impact of it is like shocking, but then just seeing the trail of like blood and the crash, that shit was gnarly.
It was gnarly. It is. When I use the word gratuitous here, like, I don't mean it that much as a knock. It is like when I saw the initial like blood
just splatter.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a car accident expert, but I was like, when I watched it, I was like, I don't think there would be that much blood here.
Yeah.
But I think it also, this prologue does such a good job of setting the tone in so many ways that, you know, it foreshadows that like this is not going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Right. It foreshadows that these characters are really going to fight and claw, you know, for what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that this is going to be
this is gonna be a
pretty
bummer.
Pretty gruesome.
Gross.
Yeah.
So
don't speed in residential areas, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no, that dude was going like 90.
Too fast.
Too fast
to where houses are. That belongs on the highway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I like the way that we're introduced to Skye. We don't see her just her. We see the persona that she has to put up because she's being interviewed by Drew Barrymore.
Crazy.
The
product placement in the Paramount universe that's built in this movie.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. I do have thoughts on the water bottle product placement here in this movie.
Right.
It's crazy to me how much this immediately kind of endears you to Skye, because like, you know, you and I, we joke quite often that we have beef with junkies. So like, if somebody told me, like, yeah, she's a junkie, I'd be like, oh, shouldn't have been the junkie.
Right.
So the fact that they're telling us what happened, like, oh, she got into this like freak accident, she almost died.
Yeah.
She's doing her best now. She's sober. She's coming back. Yeah. You're like, oh, I want her to succeed.
The good second chance.
I want her to make it. I want her to have a good time.
And she never really like relapses in this movie.
No.
Like, she wants Vicodin, but it's for her back pain.
It hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's one of those things that kind of just makes you go. Sometimes you're like, well, in the first movie, for example, like Rose gets this thing because she just refuses to like not work. Like, if you really trail back the events of Smile 1,
yeah,
it is Rose's fault. She could have not taken the call because Cal Penn tells her, hey, go home.
Right.
She should have gone home, and it would have been someone else's
I
problem.
forgot Calpen was in that movie.
I know.
Yeah.
He's her boss.
Yeah.
And that's why she gets the girl at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But in this movie, like, it's the fact that because she is a recovering addict,
Right.
like, they don't want to give her.
They don't want to give her anything strong.
Yeah, potentially addictive.
Yeah.
Medicine, right? So then she is in pain.
Right.
Like, she is doing choreography. It's only been a year. Like, I have a bum knee from a soccer accident in high school, and it still hurts.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine the pain that you would be when, like, your back is broken.
Backs are scary, man.
Right? Yeah.
Backs are scary.
Like, I take a turn the wrong way, and I'm bed duty for like 4 days.
I mean, you sleep wrong on your neck, and like your day is not ruined, but like it's
uncomfy.
Yeah,
for sure. So like the amount of pain that she's got to be in cannot be fun.
No.
Then on top of that, like, they make it very clear that, like, she is doing a lot of the extra work trying to get the choreography for the show.
And it looks great, by the way.
It looks amazing, dude.
Yep.
It's kind of mesmerizing, like the way it's shot.
Yeah.
Which then comes into great effect in some scares later too. But like, it makes sense why she would be trying to seek out a drug dealer for like something that will help ease this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Even the scene where she's considering taking it, like, she's like, I need it, but I don't want to.
Exactly. She exercises enough self-control, right? Where like she knows how to like sort of keep her addiction at bay.
Yeah, and it makes you feel for her. Kind of like, you're not like, well, got what you got.
Yeah, she didn't really like, and I think that's very intentionally done, right? Like whatever happens to her at the end happens to her, despite the fact that like she's rarely making mistakes.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yeah, I don't know that I can point at this movie and say like,
you fucked up.
You fucked up. You shouldn't have done this.
There's a point where maybe like she lashes out at a character, but like there's so much other extenuating stuff that's going on where you're like,
it makes sense. I mean, you understand why she would be lashing out at this dude.
Exactly. Any bitch movies you saw from her are all like
explainable by this entity.
But then also in the past, right? Any time where she was like in the wrong, right?
Oh yeah, it's pre-accident.
Are things we either saw in flashback or only through like text messages.
Yeah. Speaking of text messages, so she goes to this dude's house, and this dude, the way he kills himself.
Well, he opens the door first and foremost.
Yes, he opens the door and just fucking has a sword to her throat.
Which I'd forgotten how like paranoid like the victims of the demon were like before it took the full on control. But the kill, the first kill of this movie the second kill, I guess, is something else.
It's something else.
Yeah.
And like, when I say that this movie doesn't take it to the extreme that a movie like Terrifier does, like the way it lingers on some of the violence in this is on that level.
Yeah.
So like the way he, like, the camera, I don't think ever really cuts away from him.
No.
If I'm not mistaken. I think it's just, you see the weight go to his face.
Yeah.
And then it drops and you see like
it gets worse and worse each time.
Yeah. So like, it's really well done. Yeah. And by the time he's dead, it's just like hamburger meat.
Yeah.
It's peeling. There's a really nasty squishing sound of like the cheek falling off and hitting the ground.
And Sky has to watch.
She has to watch.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why I point that out, not because it's just gross and kind of funny, it's because that sound comes back multiple times throughout the movie. It's her signal, like, wait, hold on, who's in this room with me?
Yeah.
The first time you hear it is later that night. She's in bed, and she's like falling asleep, and she hears a squishing sound.
Yeah.
And like, I go, oh shit, that's the cheek falling and hitting the ground.
Right.
And she wakes up. And she sees him, right? Like
she does. She starts seeing him pretty early
that fucking night.
Which gets back to another thing we mentioned on the car ride home. Whereas Joel, right? That's the cop. He lasts 6 days. She lasts like what?
4 or 5 days, maybe.
Tops.
I don't think she lasts a week.
Might even be 3.
I think it's more than 3.
I think depending on how the timey-wimey wibbly wobbly works in this movie.
Yeah.
4 or 5 tops.
Yeah.
Maybe lower, but like it's not as long story short.
And I think it's one of those things, like what we said, it is amplified by the past trauma that people have, and
Yeah.
how fast this thing can corrupt you fully.
Yeah.
Rose, despite the fact that she had some hella trauma, like she was a psychologist.
Yeah.
Well, she was a psychologist, so she was able to like kind of logic some of this trauma out,
Right.
which helped her last longer.
She's got coping mechanisms.
She's got coping mechanisms. Joel, we don't really know his story, but he seemed well adjusted, so he probably didn't have as strong trauma
Yeah.
to like bring him down so fast. But it seemed like Sky, I mean, up to a year ago, her life was a roller coaster.
A roller coaster. A car wreck.
A car wreck, yeah.
But I think our last protagonist has, I think her tools for potential success are really like the techniques and strategies that she knows to cope. This one just has to rely on like the grit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like she's a goner.
Yeah. I do want to kind of speed through this a bit.
Yeah.
She does start to kind of she hallucinates. She decides she needs help. She calls her friend Gemma,
Right.
who just through visual context clues, we see that Sky was not on good terms with her.
No.
By the time that they had their falling out, like she had her accident, she's like, "You're a bitch, fuck you." Yeah. She calls Gemma, and Gemma shows up. Kind of entity messing with time stuff happens right here already, where she's like, this is after she had a rough day at work with like the weird stalker guy, Alfredo.
Yeah. That was so strange.
And man,
and a smiling girl.
As someone who goes to conventions and like meets celebrities every once in a while, I'm always like, I hope
you're not that guy.
I hope I'm not weird. Like sometimes you do get kind of like
you get fangirl,
starstruck a bit. It's weird. Like I met a guy who did makeup in a competition, and I was like, oh, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And like I was like, don't be weird.
Right.
But like the people that you see here some of them are like very endearing fans, but like the creepy little girl,
yeah,
you don't know if she is like a smile demon
or if she's real.
Right. The guy, he's this like pimply faced
and
sweaty.
Yeah.
And you can smell him through the screen.
Yeah, you can see his tidy whities.
Oh, we see too much of his tidy whities. But anyway, that later that night after she like, what do you say, like, I want to wear your skin or something like that, or I want to feel your skin on mine, something like that.
Something like that.
Something with skin.
Yeah, I don't know if he said he wanted to wear it.
Yeah. Yeah. But then later that night, she hears her bottle break because she's drinking her like fifth Boss water bottle of the
chugs that water.
Which, by the way, as someone who's a chugger, I'm like, respect.
Yeah, for sure. Respect.
Right. She goes get a broom, and then she turns around, and there's this like, she's like staring at something. You're like, what is she looking at?
Right.
And you're like, it could be anything.
It could be anything.
You're like, what the fuck could this thing be making her see?
At first, we see the shirt,
and then you see, you see the shirt with the dude's name, and you're like, initially, it kind of disarms you to this being supernatural.
Because sometimes horror movies will throw in extra monkey wrenches.
Yeah.
In addition to the big supernatural threat.
And in her case, like, it's extremely possible that this dude could just be in her house.
Exactly.
And I think that's almost scarier.
Absolutely.
And so when like you see his shirt,
you follow the trail of clothes, the socks, the underwear,
the shit,
camera, and the camera lingers on it. Yeah.
And then you see this dude just naked
in the corner,
smiling at her, and again, it's just like, is this something that is actually happening?
Right.
Or is this thing?
Yeah.
And it's not until like
it starts running
that you're like, okay, it's the thing.
Right.
Yeah. That was a good use of that, like, fame versus this curse
coming together.
Yeah, because it's
really
the
worst possible situation.
Yeah, like I not to go on a tangent, but like, you know McTurney.
Yeah, McTurney. Yeah.
So like a few years ago, I don't know if you remember, her and her boyfriend ended up calling the cops and hiding because some dude broke into their house.
Wow.
And like was basically like, I'm gonna kill Gavin and then I'm gonna kill you.
Wow.
and he was in their house.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's an internet.
She's an internet celebrity.
She's internet
She
famous.
is C-list
right?
at best. Yeah.
At best.
And
Sky
imagine.
Riley is like,
Yeah.
as far as like the continuity of the movie, she's like appears to be like S tier,
Right. Pop
top
star.
pop star, right? Like if her and Lady Raven were in the same city, that
Right.
whole town.
The whole town would
you
be
never seen Trap, have you?
I have not, but
Oh,
it
well,
would be a
yeah.
shaken.
But yeah, so it is a great like perspective as far as like the fame angle goes. But anyway, I love Gemma. This is where we first meet her.
She's a supportive friend.
She's a supportive friend.
What movie did we
Ish.
watch? But what movie did we watch recently? Where it was a horror movie where we were like, these friends are all awful.
Oh,
and I don't know,
man.
when I say recently, it may not have even been like within the past year, but like we don't need to dig it up. But I remember,
but I'm interested anyway.
Whatever movie that was, where these friends were awful, Gemma is the opposite.
Gemma is the opposite. Yeah. Gemma does good. Gemma does good, even though later we find out Gemma is not real.
To what? I think there's always a question as to what extent.
I think the extent of Gemma not being real, which again, we're skipping all the way to the front here. Gemma is not real in the sense that like I think the phone call she gets is real.
So some people don't. Some people think that the phone call she gets is not real because there's a scene where you see Gemma and the mom interact early on after she makes the matcha, which I'm not saying I buy into, but that's some people's evidence for that. No, Gemma did come, and then the phone call that she gets is part of the hallucination.
But then the fact that Gemma's gone at the end then wouldn't make sense.
I have no clue. I have no confidence fully in any theory to fully say which side I stand.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I just bring it up to say there's disagreement.
Interesting. I haven't seen that one yet, but it's interesting. I mean, either way could work, but I think the endearing nature of Gemma is something that I feel is real because it's Sky's reality. That Gemma is a good friend, and then this entity is using that to like lower her guard.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I do say like, even though it could be this thing the entire time, I do buy that this is how Gemma is. She does seem down to earth. She's not a celebrity from what I can see.
Well, she could still potentially go on tour.
Yeah, but I thought it was like she's here to just like hang out and be friends.
I thought she was gonna open as like
at first I thought so too, but then there was nothing that like led me to believe that she was
a musician.
Because she was also like very like deal with that shit type of like kind of reserved.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know, but anyway,
I love her dry sense of humor. She is getting phone calls throughout the movie. She's asked to do a charity event, which was really funny. Dude, she is unraveling in front of all these people.
Yeah,
we get a very creepy scene here with Jack Nicholson's son, where he stands up in the middle of the crowd
and during the charity
event.
She unravels in a way that just feels
too real,
but also just too unfair.
It's so sad.
Like they're like this girl can never really catch a break.
No.
And I think that's where, like I said earlier, I think that's where the film is effective in what it sets out to do. And then that's where my biggest conflict personally with the film comes in, where I'm like, man, I don't know how much I like this. Because like it does.
It's too mean.
It to me, it does flirt the lines with like either torture porn or like exploitation, like just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, like I get it. This girl is like, you are putting this girl through the ringer.
Yeah.
Like if she was more passive, I would hate it more. But like you just see her, like the amount of times where you see her remembering her like busted broken leg bone pointing through from the car accident. I'm like, man, this like I feel all the sads for this character.
It is really unfortunate that like, but I mean, in a way, again, it makes sense why it's like happening to the escalation that it is. She is, I think, subconsciously, even though she is someone who is used to the spotlight.
Yeah,
I think the fact that the spotlight is on her does not help her case at all in the first place.
No,
because she is still like, shit, I fucked up.
Yep.
I need to make sure this goes perfect because they are looking for a reason to bring me down. And I think the mom Well, the entity as the mom brings up that point later,
Correct.
right?
And the mom is like, the mom's very, it is kind of like a predatory celebrity mom. But then even she still, I don't think even she still gets to the point of like fully evil. And I think she's kind of sane by the fact that it's like we don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know what really happened versus like what
Yeah.
what didn't really happen.
I take that as it's like the entity fighting with itself for that to pop through. Because
Yeah.
like at the beginning of the movie, like the choreographer, like the choreography instructor is like, "Hey, let's take a break. Like we need to take a
Yeah.
break." And the mom's like, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need anything?
Yeah. But
Take a break."
yes.
And Sky's like, "No, we need to get this happening."
Yeah.
So like I took that as like the mom is probably more supportive than not. But Sky feels like if this doesn't get done, I'm letting my mom down. This is how my mom's going to feel.
Yeah. And there's the scene. So in the rehab center, when Sky's like, I can't go on the tour, and the mom's like, you have to go on the tour.
This is gonna ruin the tour.
And even though like what the mom is saying is wrong, there is part of me that's like, I do get it. Like if this falls through, then yeah, this whole career is done. I think that's the inherent problem with any sort of celebrity is like you do, and it's a big gamble because you are investing like thousands, if not more than
Millions, dude.
in the idea that you as a brand are going to take off.
Yeah.
Which is why I actually have no problem with professional athletes getting paid like
What they get paid.
what they get paid. It's not just the talent, it's the fact that like they have to make the choice like I'm going to dedicate my life to like not developing other marketable skills.
Uh-huh.
Right? And like we're just going to hit the gym and run and throw balls around.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a crazy it's a crazy
It's a choice.
perspective.
Yeah.
It's a choice, and I think it's a good choice to make in this movie. Like how many times did we watch a movie where it's like, oh, she's just a suburban mom who had a bad day and now something bad is happening to her.
Right.
Or like, here's Johnny, he's a teacher, and now things are bad.
Well, and that's where, so in a previous movie, like we were, I think by late 2022, we were at the point where we were beginning to be done with the whole generational trauma
Yeah.
thing in horror, in movies in general. And I think that movie was largely a generational trauma movie.
Wait, which movie?
Smile One.
Yeah.
Where this movie has that as an element, but there's so much more. Like, yes, there's the trauma between her and her mom, but there's just like the entire world around her
Yeah.
is out to get her.
Yeah, I would not think to pin this movie as generational trauma.
No, it's an element in the soup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could see
yeah.
that. I could see that
It's the
for sure.
It's the bay leaf you throw.
Yeah.
You throw in a little bit of flavor.
There's a scene in this movie as they're finishing up this charity event
Yeah.
where this old lady is presenting with her and she goes, "Oh, Rudy, are you okay?"
And she
just fucking elbows her in the face. This lady goes flying off the stage, falls on the table,
Yeah.
breaks everything. And this is not what happened, but I swear in my brain for like 5 seconds I thought it happened. It cuts away to this sign then that shot cuts away fast for me to realize what it really said.
Mhm.
But I was like, is that a fucking funeral? Like, did it just smash cut to a funeral for this old lady? And I turned to Tom and I go, oh my God, is this happening? Is this hilarious? It didn't. But for a split second, because you see that little, like, it looks like a in memoriam plaque almost. It pans to people wearing tuxedos. And yes, they were at a gala, so it makes sense. But in my brain, I was like, plaque, old lady in the ground,
Already dead.
people in tuxes, funeral.
That's so funny. I think so there's a shot, I think maybe that shot or like a shot or two later where you just get like music over the organizers of this like charity thing just lambasting her mom and her Daryl or whatever.
The assistant.
And they're just kind of sitting there in shame, like shaking their heads. And I did think that was funny, but I think also part of it is just like, you're like, dude, like this whole situation wasn't fair. Like if you tell me like there's a teleprompter and I just have to read from that, And then B, not only is the teleprompter broken, but it's like demon broken.
Not only is my prompter broken, it's demon
And I'm
broken.
just like, this is like, I'm just set up to fail.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Well, I'm here to talk about these broke ass kids.
Yeah.
Enjoy playing music. Have fun. See you next week.
Exactly.
Come to my show. I'm giving everybody a free ticket. That's it, Dan.
That's it.
I don't know.
Game
I
over.
think she should have cut her losses.
Yep, GG.
We meet Morris a little bit later. She starts to unravel after she gets this really. Well, she meets him first. He tells her plan. He says, "My brother killed himself."
Yeah.
He says, "My brother killed himself 8 people before you.
Right.
Here's my plan. We're gonna kill you, and then this thing will not survive because he doesn't have anything to latch onto. He couldn't pass on to another person, and then we'll resuscitate you."
I'm convinced he doesn't exist.
You're convinced he doesn't exist?
I'm convinced he doesn't exist.
So you're convinced it's like a false hope?
Yes, entirely. Because I think his plan is stupid. A. B. I think the whole getting the text from the unknown texter who is able to find her number and just chooses to be so deep throaty is just too shady for someone who genuinely would have wanted to like get this done. And then C, I don't remember how they found and did the research that let them know what the demon was in the first movie, but I'm just not convinced.
It's the fact that he's a cop.
But then who led them to like put all the pieces together? Did they do that just themselves, or was there someone else that they had to like did they? Who's like the tropey like religious occult expert that they have to visit just for the purpose of like getting the mystery solved?
So Rose goes to Laura, who is the smiling girl at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
She goes to her teacher's house because her teacher killed herself in front of her.
Yeah.
So then she goes, okay, so this girl killed herself in front of me. Then this guy killed himself in front of her. Let's talk to her.
So they figure it out themselves.
She figures it out herself.
Okay.
Then she goes to the lady. She says, oh yeah, this is what happened. Some lady killed herself in front of my husband in an elevator.
But there's no one else who's like, there's no other side character in the movie who's like putting like pins and pieces together.
Joel kind of does, because Joel then, from that information that she gives him, hey, there's a chain happening here, he then goes and pulls out police reports for every other case.
But that's it. It's just those characters.
It's just those two.
And I think that's why I'm also convinced that this Morris character is not real, because I just don't see anybody else in the chain being able to piece this all together yet.
Maybe. I don't know. My heart had hope that Sky Riley would make it through this movie.
Well,
JK, spoiler alert, she does not make it through this movie.
The bar booth tells us she's so fucked.
She's so fucked.
She's so fucked.
Jesus.
You saw that, right? Written on the chair?
No.
Oh, so yeah, on the chair that she's sitting in the bar when she's talking to Morris, there's like a piece of like bar graffiti written on there that says "You're so fucked."
Oh man.
Yeah, and it's kind of like
in your
camera shows it twice.
I see it. Oh man.
Yeah. So
well, look at that with the context clues. Listen, the Fervent boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, she doesn't want to do this thing, but then she gets this. This is probably my favorite scene of the movie, where she goes back home, and
the fans.
Huh?
The fans in the apartment.
Yeah. Well, the dancers.
Exactly.
She turns on a light to her closet, and there's just a room full of like
smiling
30 people.
Yeah.
And it is spooky.
It is very spooky.
Like having one person just staring at you and smiling.
Yeah.
Is unsettling.
Having
that many people just doing nothing but smiling.
And having them creep closer and closer.
And closer and closer. Yeah. And I love the shot. They're all like kind of creeping in, and this dude just like goes into the lamp and just smashes the bulb.
Yeah.
And it's just such an effective sound and like choice. That's where then the junkie drug dealer friend yells at her face, and it got me hella good.
Yeah.
I went, oh shit, it spooked me. That convinces her to like, I need to do this.
Right.
She gets taken to like a behavioral health center.
After a car crash though, right?
No. So this she like passes out.
Yes.
They find her.
She passes out and hits her head.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then that's when we see like the flashback of how the accident happened.
Yes.
She caused it. She was high. They were arguing.
Yeah.
She pulled on the thing and they went off.
Yeah.
path. So that's her like built-in trauma that's really amplifying this demon thing.
Correct. She got checked into the private hospital.
Yeah, she gets checked in. She leaves with she grabs the security guy's gun.
Yeah.
She waves it around. She kidnaps Gemma. Basically, tells her like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here. Gemma. I'm coming with you, bitch. Ride or die."
She's Samwise Gamgee's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ride or die.
Ride or die. They go. They do this plan. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Then Riley or Sky wakes up on stage. This thing, which by the way this thing gets in her is way more violent than in the first movie.
Yeah.
In the first movie, we see like a faraway shot of it crawling into Rose's mouth. And when you see, I don't know if you've seen the behind the scenes thing, it's crazy. This is a real thing they made.
Wow.
Like a dummy of her with a mouth that just extends. It's so gross looking. But in this one, like it rips her face open. And like her jaw splits. It's fucking disgusting.
And it's this big, gangly looking like feature monster. The design of the demon is great throughout.
Yeah. Crazy. But then she like gags. People are like, what the fuck is she like overdosing?
Yeah.
And then she just sticks this microphone in her face.
Yeah.
And now everybody
has it.
Dude, I have no idea what a sequel to this looks like.
I think Paramount has put so much into this.
You think
not in terms of like
have a plan?
Well, I think someone there wants one. Like when you went from just like making a potentially regular forgettable horror movie, which I forgot until I listened to our podcast that it had that whole promo with like people at like baseball games. Mm-hmm. When you go from that to now you're doing like the early stage Marvel stuff where like Drew Barrymore's in the movie as Drew Barrymore. Right, like you've got the regular product placement of the water. Right. I think someone higher up definitely wants a threequel.
I think what helps, and the reason why, if they do come out, hey, this weekend this movie made X amount of money at the box office, I think if they make a third one, I would not be upset because I think the creator who made this movie, Parker Finn, he has a plan, I think. Because I don't think he would have ended this movie the way he did if he didn't say, okay, if they ask me to do a third, I need to give myself enough wiggle room to make it work.
Because I do like how we have this progression of like trauma affecting an average Joe to trauma affecting a celebrity. And now this whole thing of like community, right? If that movie goes down that angle, which I see no reason why it wouldn't, then I think it could be potentially like very interesting. And I don't know how.
It's an escalation thing for sure.
Yes. I don't know to what extent I want to say where I want the movie to go and where I'd not want it to go. But I do feel, like I've said before in this review, like this movie, even though the first one was like, psych, you can't like, sometimes you can't beat your trauma, right? Like there were multiple times in this movie where I thought that like she was going to beat her trauma, even though I saw the whole like switcheroo in the first one. I don't know to what extent you can do the same thing in the third, where like, because now now if you've seen it twice, you're really attuned to the fact that like anything you see could be totally fake.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm very curious as to what angle they take, not just the fact that this demon has potentially affected a whole stadium of people, but then how the movie is able to trick us in terms of like what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think it will force them to be more creative.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that at the end, when they show the big panning shot that shows that Sky didn't actually kill her mom on the way out of the behavioral clinic.
Yeah.
That Gemma wasn't there.
Yes.
That's the only...
Yeah. We protected
Gemma. We said, Gemma, get out of that car. And she did. She listened to us.
Yes.
Very good. Last thing I want to do before we top off, take about 2 minutes to do this. What are some OP curses that you thought of? I actually put the question out to some friends online.
Oh, dude. I wasn't able to think of a lot of OP ones. I know which one that we've talked about that I would say is like F tier.
All right, which one?
Would be whatever was in Boogeyman because I think they just like beat that thing up with a baseball bat. So whenever,
Man, dude, she did.
whatever the tier list is, Boogeyman is
Boogeyman is at the bottom.
on the bottom.
Yeah, damn.
We talked about this in the car. I think Payman's like, I don't know, C tier maybe.
Payment.
Payman needs help. Payman needs help.
Payment needs help. Payment
Yeah.
needs a conduit. He
Yeah.
needs someone to summon him to do the bidding, right?
Yes.
I think once you're on Payment's radar, I think you're fucked.
Yeah.
I think so. The Necronomicon from Evil Dead, I think it's also...
Is that higher than this?
No.
No.
No, I think you can fight back.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, in the movie, I forget the ant's name. I think Tess, maybe. I can't remember. But, like, she fights back. She never gets possessed.
Right.
But, I mean, once you read from that book,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like, it needs you to read Latin. I think by now...
Yeah, we're Americans, so we don't have to do that.
Yeah, we're Americans, so...
Bly Manor, the sad... The
faceless lady?
The death sad in Bly Manor. Like, eventually that gets her. Yeah, so I think that's deceivingly up there, but at least it lets you live, like... That one lets you live a life before you go. That's the prostate cancer.
Yeah. Wow. Did we watch Antlers together?
No.
The one with the Wendigo?
We did not.
It's a Native American demon that gets in you. It makes you crave human flesh. If you eat, then you turn into a Wendigo as well.
Oh, nice.
And so, like, it's one of those things, like, if you get lost in the woods and this thing grabs onto you, you're kind of fucked because it gives you that craving until you give into it.
Until you give into it.
So that one, I think, it's also up there.
Yeah.
It Follows, I think it's one of those where, like, hey, man, just don't be horny.
Yes.
If someone is being, like, too pushy on you to, like, bang.
But then antlers just don't go into the woods.
Yeah. Although with It Follows, I think the reason why It Follows, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I will put it higher, is because with It Follows, even if you pass it on to someone, when they die, it goes back to you. You will never get rid of it.
Because that's the STD one.
It's the STD one.
Yeah.
So that one is, now that I'm thinking about it, that one's pretty up there.
Yeah. But if any of them surpass this thing that can just totally manipulate your reality.
I mean, maybe Final Destination I can think of. Because Final Destination will Rube Gold machine fucking life until you die.
Yeah.
So that is also pretty high up.
You're pretty
there.
fucked. Yeah.
Like, you get a vision, the guy says, hey man, maybe take this other elevator.
Right.
And then after that, reality is being rewritten to have this thing fall on you at some point.
Yeah.
That one's pretty gnarly.
Man. OP.
It is. I can't really think of anything. People gave me a couple of good ones, like The Grudge. That one, like, get the fuck out of the house.
Right.
Right? You leave the house. Evil Dead, don't read Latin, or maybe get a shotgun and a chainsaw.
Good Spooky House, you just need to be in the house, or the Spooky House.
Spooky House, you need to be in the house for it to grab onto you, and then it starts to, like, infect you.
Yeah.
The longer you stay there, the more grasp it has on you. But, like, someone like Steve, he seemed okay. He was young, so he wasn't as affected by it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he started going back into the house that it started to, like, kind of affect him more. Werewolves, no, just don't get bit. I think, honestly, It Follows and this are probably
top,
I think. I think so.
Yeah.
I honestly can't think of anything that I think you're more fucked than this.
Well, no curses for me, thank you. I'll live my life curse free.
I had a blast talking about this movie. I had a blast watching this movie.
I did too. I related to both of these were better than I expected going into them.
This movie, Before We Leave, was also a better musical than the last musical we watched.
It was a better musical than Joker 2. It was a better movie about smiling people than Joker 2. It was a better movie about shared trauma than Joker 2. And I think this is actually, this movie does not break the cardinal sin, which actually might just really be the key to movie making. Just don't be boring.
Don't be boring. I was never bored in this movie.
Because I was
tension.
I was uncomfortable in both this movie and both the Joker movies, right?
For different reasons.
But I was never bored.
Yeah. I had a great time, friendo. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Remember to share with your friends. Give us a like on whatever streaming platform you have us.
So go back and listen to some of our older episodes.
Yeah, they might sound like potato, not as nice and crisp as these sound now.
But the words are sincere.
The words are sincere. We have some good takes on some of those old reviews, my man.
Only the best takes.
Only the best takes. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for your time. Go watch this movie. Until next time, he has been Thano.
He has been Javier.
This has been the Cine-Scoot Movie Show. Bye.